How has the landscape in the Middle East changed in the past 365 days?
It's the world will never be the same. What happened a year ago today has forever changed the world. It's larger than simply Hamas versus Israel. This is about part of the global realignment. I mean, let's be honest. The Israeli-American relationship is an unnatural relationship when it comes to the geopolitical balance. It's at odds with the natural um, sense of balance that exists in the Middle East. Israel is I was going to say an abomination, which it is, but it's also a cancer. It's a cancerous tumor attached to the Middle East that disrupts the natural functioning of everything, and it's sustained by its relationship with America. What Hamas did on October 7th, 2023, is begin the process of causing the entire world to recognize Israel for what it was. Up until on October 6th, 2023, the world was still behaving as if Israel was part of the normal balance. It's not. The world was behaving as if Israel could be treated as part of this global, economic entity. Joe Biden, in the summer of 2023, had promoted Israel as being a core element of what he called the Middle East, the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. Israel was getting ready to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia, to begin this process of regional normalization that had Israel serving as the centerpiece of this, with no talk whatsoever of a Palestinian statehood, no consideration of the Palestinians. It was an Israeli-centric version of the Middle East, which is part and parcel of an American-centric vision of the world. Today, that's done. In 2 weeks, there's going to be a meeting in Kazan, Russia, with the BRICS that's going to have more relevance today because of what was exposed through Hamas's attack. The world now sees Israel as the genocidal apartheid state that it has always been, but has somehow fooled us all into believing didn't exist. And they see America as a nation that has totally lost touch with its founding principles: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. If that's truly what America stands for, statements written by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, then why do we support a nation that commits genocide, that's an apartheid state, that thinks it's okay to kill women and children by the thousands as part of collective punishment in total disregard for international law? We see the world standing up to Israel now for the first time, and we see Israel no longer being this nation with an invincible army that has this deterrence that everybody fears. Iran has put that to rest. Israel now fears Iran. There's only one nation right now in the Middle East that can destroy the other nation, and that's Iran can destroy Israel with the next missile attack. Israel cannot destroy Iran, even if they use nuclear weapons. This is a fundamental shift away from what it was. The world will never be the same.
The world will never be the same toward Israel. Will other countries in the world, besides Iran, resist Israel in such a way as to retard or arrest its slaughter of innocents in Gaza and in Lebanon?
I mean, we see this gradual transition. In the United Nations, for instance, Palestine has now been invited in as a member. Nations are talking about the recognition of Palestine. People are talking about the absolute necessity of a Palestinian state. And you see nations like Turkey and others making, increasing the strictness of their rhetoric when it comes to Israel. I don't think we're going to see nations aligning themselves violently against Israel like Iran is doing. That's, first of all, counterproductive, and it's unnecessary. Iran has fulfilled that goal. What nations are doing now is calling out Israel for the, again, abomination that it is, this apartheid genocidal state. That is becoming how the world recognizes Israel, not as this freedom-loving bastion of democracy, but this horrific regime that mirrors the actions and the ideology of Nazi Germany. I mean, it was Nazi ideology that led to the Holocaust, that led to the creation of Israel. Now the Israelis have come full circle, are behaving in a manner that's similar. It's not me saying this. This is Holocaust survivors who are coming out saying that they condemn Israel for becoming that which they survived. This is what's going to undo Israel. The fact that the world is seeing Israel for what it is, a cancerous tumor that has to be excised. You can't allow cancer to continue to survive in the human body. It must be excised. And this is what's going to happen to Israel. It won't be violent. I believe Israel will probably die from self-immolation. It'll collapse from within. Israel has become, Zionism has become a notion that's no longer compatible with civilized society. And you're going to see people turning their back on Israel, and you're going to start to see Israelis flee Israel. And at some point in time, when a sufficient number of Israelis have fled Israel, it'll become demographically impossible to sustain, and that will be the end of Israel. That's the future of Israel.
I think I know the answer to this question, but let's crystallize it. Is Israel today, after the years of the prime ministership of Benjamin Netanyahu, and particularly the immediate past year, stronger and more stable, or weaker and less stable than it was a few years ago?
Israel has never been weaker and more unstable than it is today, and it's solely because of the so-called leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. When the history of the decline of Israel is written, Benjamin Netanyahu will be the man who destroyed Israel singularly. He's the man who made it happen. There was a time back when Yitzhak Rabin was the prime minister where Israel was divided, where you still had right-wing Likudniks like Netanyahu who said there will never be a Palestinian state. But there were a number of people in labor who said there's an absolute necessity for it. And labor was prevailing. And then Netanyahu orchestrated the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin by encouraging Talmudic rabbis to give voice to the need to kill a man that has been singled out as an enemy of the Hebrew people, encouraging right-wing Talmudic students to pull the trigger on the gun that killed Yitzhak Rabin. Netanyahu pulled that trigger, not physically, but rhetorically, and now Israel's paying the price. They've never been weaker, and they've never been more isolated, and it's all because of Benjamin Netanyahu.